Good afternoon. Welcome to all who have assembled here in this public talk, which is jointly organized by CIMIC Institute of Technology's SDGs Action Research Center and IDEA Innovation and Development Associates Foundation. Let me introduce myself. I am Dr. Ratan Kumar Roy. As a program director, I am with CIMIC Institute of Technology, and I am also an editor of SDGs newsletter, which is published from Dhaka by CIMIC. So I welcome to all the distinguished speakers, including the keynote speaker of today's talk, who we know we are seeing her already, Professor Dr. Dora Marinova, Director, Curtin University Sustainability Policy Institute, Curtin University, Perth, Western Australia. And we have our distinguished discussant panelists. We have Professor Dr. Amjad Hussain, Executive Director, SDGs Action Research Center at CIMIC Institute of Technology, and also SDGs Coordinator, Bangladesh Chapter, Curtin University Sustainability Policy Institute, Australia. We have with us Mr. Kaji M. Aminul Islam, who is a retired Executive Chairman, Bangladesh Investment Development Authority, BIDA. He is also served as a Secretary in Prime Minister's Office and Chairman, Innovation and Development Associates, IDEA Foundation. We have with us Mr. Mohammad Abdul Kalam Azad, Special Envoy, CVF Presidency, and Commissioner, Global Commission on Biodiversities. He was also former Principal Secretary to Honorable Prime Minister, former Chief Coordinator of SDG to Honorable Prime Minister. And the chair of today's event, Professor Dr. Mohammad Munirul Islam. He is the president of CIMIC Institute of Technology and Dean, College of Engineering Technology, International University of Business, Agriculture and Technology, IUBAT, Uttara, Dhaka. So as you all know that we have gathered here today for hearing a special lecture by Professor Dora Marinova on partnership for sustainability. And it is indeed a timely topic that we are dealing with and we will be talking about today. And in this particular context where we are having a pandemic affected world, we need to talk and think more about the possible collaboration and effective partnership for transforming our world, which is our Vision 2030, the agenda for sustainable development. And so far, many scholars have been exploring the possible grounds, impact, perceptions of partnership among non-state actors, particularly the non-profit organizations, non-governmental organizations, private sector partners in partnerships for the sustainable development goals. And whenever they were talking about that, they were also bringing out the realities. What are the drawbacks? What are the issues? What are the challenges? What are the impediments in doing this kind of possible collaboration? So Professor Dora's talk and afterward our discussions will throw critical insights about all this. So before we hear it from Professor Dora Marinova, I want to just quickly brief about these two host organizations. SDGs Action Research Center is an initiative by CIMIC Institute of Technology, which is contributing from the private part, contributing to SDGs implementation in Bangladesh. It is also a research hub where we have a pool of young researchers. IDEA is Innovation and Development Associates Foundation. It is a non-government, non-profitable, non-political, voluntary and charitable organization. It mainly works in the area of research, policy analysis, advocacy, advisory, and project implementation. And its area of interests are quite diverse, from ICT to legal affairs, water sanitation, poverty alleviation, infrastructure, climate change, migration, and rehabilitation. So before we pass it on to Professor Dora Marinova, I must quickly provide a brief about her work and achievements to our audience. And I can already see more than 70 people have joined, and we hope that many more will come here. And just for the information, this event is going live in IDEA's Facebook page, as well as CIMIC Institute of Technology's Facebook page. So to talk about Professor Dora Marinova, she is originally from Bulgaria, and then she moved to Perth, Western Australia in 1991. And she is a professor, as I already said, sustainability at the Curtin University Sustainable Policy Institute. She has over 400 referred publications and has supervised 65 PhD students to successful completion. She has served as a member of Australia's National Health and Medical Council's panels on centers of research excellence in population health and in service delivery. So, and if we look at her publications, most of the publications have earned, they are published in prestigious journals like, Scientometrics, Journal of Cleaner Production, Journal of Informatics and Nanotechnology, and two of her books she edited, namely Impact of Meat Consumption on Health and Environmental Sustainability and Environmental Health and Business Opportunities in the New Meat Alternative Market, were awarded World Best Book in the prestigious 22nd and 24th Gourmand Awards, respectively, in the Sustainable Food and Vegetarian Food category. For the period of 1991 to 2021, Scopus lists her as Australia's top author and 23rd in the world in the area of sustainability. Allmetric ranks two of her paper in the top 5% in the world. So we are indeed proud to have her as the head of international research panel with SDGs Action Research Center at CIMEC Institute of Technology. Now it is time to invite her and listen to her lecture. So with I seek permission from the chair of the session, and then I want to invite Professor Dora Marinova to deliver our keynote.
Okay, shall I start now? I think,
yeah.
Okay. Hi, everybody. It's a pleasure to be among some familiar colleagues and friends, and also to see a lot of new names that I have not come across until now. But the thing that brings us together is our commitment to sustainability and particular interest in the future of the world and of Bangladesh in particular. Thanks, Ratan, for your introduction. Whenever I hear this, I just feel, oh my God, I'm so old. I've been working in this area for so long. But on the other hand, it has been so rewarding because some of the participants today are former PhD students of mine. And as a teacher, you always want your students to do better than you have done. And if you manage to achieve that, that means that you have been a good teacher. So let me now share the screen and talk about some work that we have been doing around partnerships between Curtin University and the government of Bangladesh. Okay, it worked before, and now here it is. Okay, can you see the screen? Good. Okay, I'm a professor at the Curtin University Sustainability Policy Institute, and we refer to it as CASP because that means that we are on the cusp between theory and practical applications. We are at the cusp between the old world and the world that we want to see. So that name symbolizes in many ways the challenges that we face when we work in sustainability. Okay, so talking about partnerships, why do we need partnerships? We all know that this is SDG 17, but by working together, we amplify the positive impacts of our actions to achieve the Global Sustainable Development Goals, the global SDGs. And I'm going to talk about the positive aspects of the partnerships because we're not interested in situations where the partnerships don't work and when they fall apart, because what we want to see is where the partnerships can allow us to see these positive impacts. We're facing enormous challenges related to climate change. COVID-19, as Ratan already mentioned, I'm at the moment in Western Australia, in Perth. It is COVID-free place. We are very lucky, but we still know that the rest of the world is dealing with an enormous problem. And we are also trying to contribute in one way or another to resolving the challenges of COVID-19. The other challenge, and there are some links between this, is the fact that we have, as human race, we have encroached on the habitat of other species, and we've seen so much habitat change and biodiversity loss and species extinction. So it's no wonder now that the viruses are finding their hosts into the human beings. In many ways, biodiversity loss and species extinction is probably a bigger challenge than climate change, because a lot of that is happening outside of the urban environments, outside of the headquarters of the institutions that are obsessed with economic development. And we have found ways of dealing with some of the problems around climate change, and particularly energy and transport, but we still have not even understood what is the meaning of biodiversity and what is the importance of biodiversity for us in particular and for life on this planet. Poverty is another big problem, and with the current pandemic, we've seen a bigger division between society, and the wealthy are getting wealthier, and the poor people getting even worse. So, and unless we guarantee a meaningful level and a decent quality of life for everybody on this planet, we will be facing enormous problems, social tensions, and we will not be able to achieve sustainability, which, as you all know, is a way of integrating economic development with social justice and environmental conservation. But when I started working in the area of sustainability, probably about 30 years ago, we were talking about maintaining. That was sustainability, was around maintaining. Now we are changing the language, because it's not enough to maintain what we have, because we have done so much damage on the planet, that now we need to restore the health of the planet. We need to look at regeneration, healing the earth, planetary health, rewilding the earth. So our task has become even more difficult and more difficult because of the fact that we have not embraced sustainability. And now we have to not only allow for economic, social, and environmental priorities, but we also need to switch our focus on planetary health and the fact that human beings are part of this planet. And unless the planet is healthy, we cannot expect the human race to also be healthy. So partnerships, why do we need partnerships? Because partnerships help us create a vision for a better world. When I talk with my colleagues about things that have been done differently, it doesn't matter whether it relates to waste collection, whether it relates to hospitals and provision of services, whether it relates to economic opportunity. It's really important to make sure we have the same vision. And by talking and by working together, we're actually acting as an enabler or a force that allows change to happen. And the important aspect of partnerships is that we share our knowledge, our perspectives, the resources that we have access to, and we also bring together diverse skills and diverse experiences. The experiences that you have in Bangladesh and that we have in Australia, or that we have in other parts of the world, are unique, but they're extremely important because they allow us to relate to the locality. They allow us to understand that particular place where change needs to happen. And also, we use partnerships to reduce risk. we are facing very risky decisions. How do we share the risk? How we cross-fertilize ideas is something that partnerships allow us to do. But the most important thing about partnerships is that they build on shared values. You'll be doing a particular kind of partnerships if your values are related to, for example, going in space, or if your values are related to healing the planet and doing and achieving the SDGs. So having shared values is really, really important. And the next slide, I'm going to give you some, oh, it's not changing. Yeah, okay. So that's some work that I have done with my colleagues and with a former PhD student of mine of rethinking what are the shared values in relation to Bangladesh as well as anywhere in the world, and how they relate to the 17 Sustainable Development Goals that are put up by the United Nations. Recently, I participated in a workshop where the main speaker said, I don't care what the United Nations are giving us an agenda. You know, the SDGs have no meaning. Well, the perspective that we have in working under the Sustainable Development Goals, under the UN SDGs global agenda, is that we need to localize the meaning of these goals, because they need to be interpreted depending on the circumstances where you live. And this, what this wheel or this circle shows is that in the middle we have SDG 11, the sustainable settlements and communities, because ultimately SDGs and sustainability is about people, about our communities, about our cities, our villages, the infrastructure that we need to function. And they're very anthropocentric. This is how we refer something that is based on the importance of humans. So they're very much anthropocentric. And the human species has been extremely powerful, and we are now living in the Anthropocene, which is the geological epoch where all the trends that we see on the planet are highly influenced by this one species, which is the human species. So being anthropocentric, we are putting the SDGs in the middle. But then we have organized the goals that are more related to the environment or to the social or to the economic aspects under three very important values. Let me start from the one on the right that relates to how we interact with the environment. And the value that is very prominent there is kindness. We need to be kind to nature. That is our home, that is our habitat. So all things related to how we treat life underwater, life on land, other species, how we use fresh water, what are the energy sources that we use, how we respond to climate change. It all needs to show kindness, because we are a very, very powerful species. We can soon inhabit other planets, but this planet is our home and need to be protective and responsible and kind towards this planet. On the left-hand side are the economic related goals, such as good jobs, economic growth, innovation, sustainable production and consumption, and poverty and hunger. That is linked to modesty, how we act, what we consume, what we produce, what the changes that we use technology for. It has to have the moral judgment that it's not enough to just to show that we can destroy. It's important that we actually realize that there are too many of us, 7.9 billion right now, and we need to be modest in our desires and our consumption. And the one at the bottom is linked to the social aspects, such as education, good health, reduced inequalities, gender equality, peace and justice, extremely important. And they build the social resilience. They allow us as society and as communities to keep going and face all kind of challenges. The outside circle is partnerships, what we are talking about today. And what is quite interesting about this goal is that's the only one that talks about means of implementing the other, the global agenda. And it's also the goal that allows interlinkages. And it's really, really important when you look at partnerships that you keep all goals in mind. So you don't just try to resolve one thing, because if you concentrate on one thing, you can do it perfectly at the expense of other things. So there are numerous types of partnerships. The Paris Climate Accord and the agreement to keep the temperature increase within 2 degrees Celsius or 1.5 preferably, it's a kind of a global commitment. Partnerships could be formal or informal, could be legalized or voluntary. They can relate to all kinds of works, and they have a time dimensions. Some are very short, others are for the long run. And there are numerous participants. And I've tried to put in this chain, which is, I don't know whether you've played as kids with this kind of metal toys, where you can add links and you can take links away. But what is important is that you need to bring the right partners. They come from the government, from the research organizations, from not-for-profit organizations, community groups and civil society, extremely important, business, and as well as philanthropic organizations. So they all have a role to play in the partnerships. It doesn't mean that each partnership will need to have all of this. But the point that I'm trying to make is that they bring a distinctive aspects and a distinctive understanding and perspective on the work that needs to be done through a partnership. Public-private partnerships is government and business. But what is really important, and this is where you bring all the other partners, are the pro-poor public-private partnerships. As I said, poverty is a huge problem, and it's not enough to resolve problems without improving the quality of life at the people that are socially at the bottom in terms of income opportunities, employment opportunities, in terms of skills and education. So you need to lift everybody out of poverty. So we started working with the government of Bangladesh, with the Governance Innovation Unit, and I can see some colleagues who have joined the meeting from GIU. So that's a screenshot that I took, I think, 2 days ago, and it was really nice to see one of the first meetings that we had there. And what is really important is that 5 or 6 years later, we're still working together, and we're still committed. So this slide has some information that those of you who know Bangladesh probably know, the first 4 dot points, and probably not everybody knows the 5th dot point. So the first one is that the government of Bangladesh has embraced the SDGs as a standard of assessment of all its public servants. And from what I know, that's the only country that has taken the SDGs in such a responsible way. Bangladesh has been a lower middle income country since 2015 on a very, very ambitious agenda to actually become middle income country. And we are hoping that this is going to happen soon. And because it has been one of the fastest developing economies in the world, where we've seen a remarkable decline in poverty from 44% in 91 to less than 50% in 2021, and probably would have been less without the pandemic. But the point that I want to stress is that this is the only country in the world where the gender gap is in reverse. So these beautiful women that you see on the photo, they're actually extremely active, extremely influential, extremely assertive, and according from the International Labour Office, that's the only country in the world where women are getting paid higher than men for equal type of type of employment. So, how is Bangladesh performing in the SDGs? The latest report, which was released probably a month ago, shows Bangladesh being one of the top performing countries. I don't know whether you can see the two circles according to the report. But what I want to stress is the areas where Bangladesh is outperforming Australia. One of them is SDG 2, no hunger. Why you would say, how can that be? Australia is such a wealthy country. The problem is that in Australia, we have huge problems with obesity and overweight and the right diet. The other two where Bangladesh is outperforming Australia is in relation to sustainable production and consumption and in relation to climate change. So Bangladesh is doing really well. It has still a very light ecological footprint. And of course, there is room for a lot of improvement. And this is where we've started working with the government of Bangladesh in trying to build opportunities for action research projects on localizing the SDGs. And I've mentioned that it's very important that you actually interpret what it means for the locality where you are. So that's some of the some photos of where we are scoping and interpreting what it means to do action research projects in Bangladesh. Action research are projects that make significant difference in the lives of peoples. And there are 3 projects, and I'm sure that they will be mentioned by other speakers today. But one is in a village led by a community group supported by Curtin universities in Lakshmipur. Then we have North Dhaka, which is demonstration project with CIMEC, led by CIMEC. And we also have the SDG village in Panchaga by at the time, the deputy commissioner, who was one of the participants in one of the first groups that came to Australia. It's a beautiful place where the project is trying to build capacity bottom up, where we're building on social values and norms, we're building on sustainable agriculture opportunities and empowering local people to improve their quality of life while at the same time preserving the Bao heritage. North Dhaka, that some photos when I visited, that was my last trip outside of Australia before COVID-19. And I was so impressed by the work that CIMEC is doing and something that I describe as sustainability humanistic education, because it's not just teaching sustainability values, but giving also opportunities for people to improve their quality of life. And the SDG village is around provision of health services and housing and sustainable modes of transportation to some of the poor people. And I was really pleased to see sustainable development in Bangladesh, one of the books that was in the office of the DC at the time. So what are the measures of success? It's important to have very clear goals. You need to co-create solutions. You need to integrate all SDGs, shared interests, look for synergies, look for commitment, and look for transformation. So let me just talk a little bit about transdisciplinarity. I know I'm running out of time, but I'll use 2 minutes, no more than that. When you talk about action research, you're actually talking about crossing boundaries between academia and government and communities. This is described in science as transdisciplinarity. And that means that we're tackling socially relevant problems with learnings across all kinds of knowledges, including indigenous knowledge. And we're creating new knowledge that is solution-oriented and that allows us to transform the world. The part of the partnership has been around problem framing and finding possible points of impact, but at the same time, it's really important to apply the knowledge that emerges. We are facing challenges, but let's not focus on the challenges, but focus on the transformation. What is a transformation? Transformation is a deep fundamental change within the structures of society. And this is what we need to achieve the SDGs and to achieve sustainability. You can look at transformation as a structural, systemic, or enabling. A structural transformation means that you try to change the economy, the politics, the ideological underpinnings. You put the TV on in Australia, you're constantly hearing different political opinions and economic opinions and a lot of discussions and a lot of debates because the system needs to change. The systematic change means the interactions between the different players, and there is a big role that technology plays in changing the system. The miracle of technology is the fact that I'm talking to you right now. But the third approach to transformation through partnerships is the enabling approach, the creating the social attributes in individuals and societies that are empowered, which is focused on shared values and on the process. So each partnership should use all these approaches, and its aims should be, as we well know, to leave no one behind. Thank you. I'll stop sharing.
So you want to end here?
Yes, thank you.
That's wonderful, actually. And I believe that you have not taken any extra time, and it was quite interesting to listen, particularly within a very short time. You have kind of given us a wider spectrum of thinking and, putting our ideas also. And we have a distinguished panel. So from localizing SDG to talk about the importance of action research in Bangladesh. So without any delay, I would move to the discussion. But before that, for all the individuals who have participated, I know many distinguished individuals are also part of this discussion. We will have a question and answer session after our distinguished discussants, and they put their ideas. But I would request all of you to write your questions in the chat box. Maybe it will be easier for me to club some of them and put it in front of Dora so that we can also save some time to listen to her again. So certainly we'll come back. So now we consider it a great honor to welcome Professor Dr. Amjad Hussain, who is also a colleague of Professor Dora Merinova. And just to little bit talk about him, he did 2 PhDs even, and his PhD was in sustainability from Murdoch University, Perth, Western Australia. And then also he has a PhD in spiritual anthropology. So currently he is the SDG coordinator, Bangladesh chapter of Curtin University Sustainability Policy Institute, Curtin University, Perth, Western Australia, and also executive director of SDGs Action Research Center at CIMIC Institute of Technology. Professor Hussain, may I request you to take the floor and deliver your comments and observations? Sir.
Thank you, Ratan. Welcome everyone to this event. And with regard to partnership for sustainability, I can see that without partnership, it is impossible to achieve any one of the 17 SDG goals, save for poverty alleviation. The poverty alleviation, it is so diverse and it is so intensive for people to understand and people to eradicate, control it or reduce it. So partnership is partnership almost compulsory or so with sharing with sustainable partnership, I can, in achieving SDGs, I can see for all these 17 goals, starting from poverty alleviation to institution development, water resources, energy, etc., and implementation. Everywhere, partnership is required. But the partnership, so what sort of partnership we have in currently in our country and in our SDG model projects. So if we talk about SDG model projects in Adghoria, Lakshmipur, in Pabna, we have partners with all the about 20 occupants or occupational people, starting from, say, cultivators, weavers, and fishermen, etc., all our actually partners for our fraternity, for our SDG team in Adghoria, Pabna. So in this way, so everyone in our team, they are contributing to achieving all our 17 goals we are trying to achieve in one locality. That's why we call the model project. By model project, we mean that a locality where all these 17 goals can be achieved in one locality, so that people from outside, they can come here and they can learn all these 17 goals, how they are achieving and what they are doing, and all the procedures, etc. However, so sustainability partnership in this way is very important, and in coming days for achieving SDGs, and after achieving SDGs, also we need to maintain SDGs. That what we have achieved, we need to maintain its originality or its outcomes. So this is also important, that sustainability, partnership for sustainability is important for achieving SDGs and also maintaining SDGs after it has been achieved. So all this way I can say only the few minutes, and I'll take questions and answers when the time comes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for briefly throw lights on some very significant points. I will again quickly go to our next honorable discussant, Mr. Kaji M. Aminul Islam. Before I pass it to you, sir, I want to briefly talk about your wide experience working with governments and beyond. So Mr. Kaji M. Aminul Islam joined Bangladesh Civil Service in 1981 and progressed to high responsibilities in diverse areas of the government. And he was the first executive chairman of Bangladesh Investment Development Authority, BIDA, from 2016 to 2019. He also worked as alternative director on the board of the executive directors of the World Bank in Washington, D.C. for 3.5 years for the constituency comprising of Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, and Sri Lanka. Also, he was a secretary of Prime Minister's office in 2009. In course of work for transition to democracy and private sector development, Mr. Islam steered bodies like Better Business Forum and Regulatory Reform Commission and developed a very strong relationship between the business community and government in Bangladesh. So now I request Mr. Islam to enrich us with your thoughts and remarks. Sir.
Thank you. Professor Islam, Chairman of the session, speakers, moderator, discussants, and distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Firstly, I would like to express my thanks and gratitude to all of you for attending this event. And I also like to thank the Action Research Center of the Cotton University for jointly organizing this event today. By now, we heard Professor Dora, and also Mr. Hamzad Hussain. In her keynote speech, Professor Dora has very eloquently highlighted the issues of partnership in relation to the challenges of the SDG, and she discussed various types of partnership, including the one between the government of Bangladesh and Khartoum University, and the transformations that have been achieved in terms of the project outcome. Thank you, Professor Dora, for your excellent presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, we all know that SDGs provide a blueprint for a better world, with peace and prosperity for people and the planet. And the kind of world that it promises is far away from the world that we are in. Status quo will not get us there. We have to have transformation, massive transformation, to make sure that no one is left behind. Well, I believe that this is the essence of SDGs. Such transformation is possible, and we have to have this kind of transformation. And it is possible only if we can ensure partnership, which is adequate and transformation effective. Because there may be partnership which is not effective for transformation that we need for sustainable development. In fact, the agenda, 2030 agenda, refers to two kinds of partnership. One is global, which is to be led by the governments, and the other is multi-stakeholder, which is to complement the global partnership. And both take a voluntary and bottom-up approach. In SDGs, we have a huge action agenda for achieving the target, which is a world free from poverty and hunger, a world with health and well-being for all. It's a huge ask, but unfortunately the progress towards goals has been slow, and the global development had been moving dangerously along the wrong path, even before the pandemic. Meanwhile, the pandemic hit the whole world. It affected billions and killed millions. Hundreds of millions slipped back to poverty, and the number of hungry people in 2020 rose to 768 million, which is 118 million more than what it was in 2019. Under these circumstances, we have to have a renewed look at the SDGs and how we pursue. I believe that we need to focus on required partnership, and we need to pursue SDGs even more under these changed circumstances. And if we look at the countries around the world, at the moment we don't have a formal framework for enabling and ensuring partnership. So we rely on voluntary and bottom-up approach and find that there are few problems that inhibit formation of partnership and the delivery that partnership is supposed to make. Ladies and gentlemen, achieving sustainability requires actions and policies that have winners and losers. They need to collaborate to initiate and smooth a transition. But the losers may not have the incentive or the capacity to participate. This creates what we call compensation and capacity problem in partnership. Again, in SDG, we need long-term transition and a partnership that generates payoff, which is skewed to the long term. But the actors may have short time horizons and have a perception that in the long run we are all dead. This is the time horizon or discounting problem involving the actors who have high discount rate and require the benefits to accrue earlier than what sustainability would suggest. There could be other problems, such as information problem or the free ride problem. Information problem arises when partners are not even aware that there is an opportunity for partnership. In some cases, parties may be aware, but they will wait for one of the parties to move. And that creates what you call free rider problem. And in the current system that we have, there is hardly any mechanism to solve this coordination problems. Issues like these need to be addressed to get the adequate and transformation effective partnership. The multinational agencies, UN bodies, international NGOs can help alleviate this sort of problems by providing facilities, finance, network, and experience. Given the state of multilateralism, or I would rather say poor state of multilateralism, and the global initiatives that have fallen far short of the pledge and expectation, I believe countries around the world, including Bangladesh, have to play a hands-on role and enforce the required partnership with its resources, decision and policy tools, and legitimacy to mobilize the stakeholders at such a scale as is necessary for transformation. That is what I believe the government of Bangladesh has already done. It has created an office of the SDG coordinator at the Prime Minister's office. It is its convening power to localize the SDGs, engage the actors for collaboration, and solve the problems and issues in partnership, engage the stakeholders, and create an opportunity for people of diverse interests to participate. This has been reflected in the phenomenal progress that Bangladesh has made in reforms for sustainable development goals. I believe that the countries around the world working on sustainability may find approach of Bangladesh interesting, which involves creating institutions, addressing the gaps in the current approach, mobilizing resources, and engaging the stakeholders in a transformation effective partnership, and thus accelerating the reforms for achieving the development goals and sustainability. Thank you. With these few words, I would like to conclude. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, sir. Again, I want to thank you because I think we will have a lots of opportunity to listen in the question and answer session because we will be saving some time. So, and I can see already more than 100 people have joined in this platform as well as in all our social media platforms. So the next dignitary to honor us with his viewpoint is Muhammad Abul Kalam Azad, and I want to take this opportunity to introduce him, though most of the people I think who are in this platform knows about him. Special Envoy of CVF Presidency and Commissioner of Global Commission on Biodiversities. Dr. Muhammad Abul Kalam Azad also was the former Principal Secretary to Honorable Prime Minister of Bangladesh and former Principal Coordinator of SDG to Honorable PM Office. He has more than 3 decades of experiences in development administration, human resource development, public health management, management of financial institution, consultancy and research, and power sector development. He was actively working for implementation of the public-private partnership projects, skill development, and in the area of climate change. Mr. Azad served Honorable Prime Minister of Bangladesh as Senior Secretary, then Principal Secretary and Principal Coordinator, as I have said, for the Sustainable Development Goals for 6 years. And during his active engagement, he served the government in negotiating with UN agencies for graduation of Bangladesh from LDC, in preparing VNR 2017 in UN, and joining the high-level political forum on sustainable development and UN General Assembly. Now I request Muhammad Abul Kalam Azad to take the floor.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ratan. So, dear colleagues from different sectors, from home and abroad, from other side of the Atlantic, from Europe, Sweden, also from India, Mr. Arvi Shahi, friends from different sectors like Human Rights Commission, Chairman, Human Rights Commission, President past, dignitaries, secretaries, even Vice Chancellor from Kabi Nazrul University. Dear friends, good afternoon. It's a great pleasure for me, for us, all of us, to welcome you in this discussion. Why SDG is very important for Bangladesh? Why we are doing this at this very moment? The information which Ms. Dora mentioned, that Bangladesh is one of the 3 best achieving country in SDG. This is partially true. Full truth is Bangladesh is number 1 in the progress of SDG development. Though in the list of SDG achievement, you will find some Scandinavian country, but how much we progressed from 2015 to 2020 with our very limited resources. How could we do this? How did we develop the partnership? This is the story of Bangladesh. How did we do? First of all, I would tell that most important thing is the political will. Under Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, from the very beginning, even when SDG did not start its journey in 2016, she did it end of 2015, a coordination committee headed by her principal secretary, so that all the sector could be involved, not only the government sector, private sector also, the development partners, think tanks, multilateral development organizations. So a great coordination started from the very beginning. And this political will, with a very effective coordination with all the public sector, private sector, were not in sports, culture, journalism, in different sector, agriculture, livestock, health, working with the FBCCI, working with the sports association, with honorable journalists. So all sectors of people were involved. The essence of SDG is beautiful because of the whole of the society approach. This is not only toxic, this is the reality in Bangladesh what happened. In NATO, a model developed, we call NATO model. The then Deputy Commissioner on NATO, she engaged all sectors of people, government officials, elected representative, private sector people, and also the common people, including the students. And she, with our guidance, maintained the very much discipline, in a disciplined manner, the needs of the society, the special needs of the locality, special needs of youth people, women, and different sectors of people. And from Upazila level up to the district level, she finalized this plan of SDG localization and NATO model. From Prime Minister's office, we did this NATO model circulated all over the country, and all the districts tried to have their own plan. So Bangladesh, from the very beginning, started implementing SDG 17 goal, 169 target to 32 indicators with this NATO model, with this idea of localization. The beauty working with international organizations like UNDP, we could carry the message of leave no one behind. Every people should be included. Every sectors of people should be taken in the journey of SDG together. And not only there, in terms of the natural disaster, combating natural disaster, As Ms. Dora mentioned about biodiversities, the Climate Vulnerable Forum, in all the area, how we could have the impact, how we could have take forward the journey of SDG for all the country. Now, the question, why partnership? Ms. Dora mentioned, why partnership? Partnership is for sharing knowledge, sharing information, sharing technology. Especially, I would tell about the SDG tracker, which Bangladesh developed. On the way to journey of SDG, these 169 target translated this into action for all the ministry. I would do injustice if I miss the role of non-government organizations. These non-government organizations also, they gathered together, they mapped which NGO is doing in which area. Likewise, the government sectors, all the ministry 169 target, they mapped where they had to play their role. And accordingly, all the ministry, they prepared their action plan. This action plan you will find in the website of our General Economic Division. Not only this book also, how do we do the SDG implementation, starting from translating the SDG in Bangla, mapping of the ministry. We had the monitoring framework, which is a training manual, and in different way, we work with all sectors of people for implementation of SDG. Another very important area is the resource mobilization. In Bangladesh, we need about $1 billion extra, which is exactly 928 billion. Huge task, almost equal to our budget, each year's budget. So here partnership is required. How we can harness the resources from our blue ocean, training our people, building their skills. And another important area of partnership is data. In all the 132 indicator, metadata is not yet ready. Bangladesh is working very hard on this. And in last 5 years, earlier Bangladesh had only 35% of data. Now we have more than 60% data. Still we are working on this. An SDG tracker, which Bangladesh prepared, from 2016, we shared this with different countries. This SDG tracker is a very, very dynamic software where each and every steps of work can be calculated and accounted for the implementation of SDG. So in Bangladesh, another area which is contributing to SDG is the annual performance agreement. Now in Bangladesh, each of the ministry, they signs agreement with the cabinet division at the beginning of the year, what they will perform in this year. So each of the ministry, they translate it into division, district, sub-district, and personal level. So a person sitting in the remote part of the country, whatever he's doing, he's contributing to our national budget, he's or she's contributing to implementation of SDG. You see, SDG in Bangladesh, we will be following continuous 3-5-year plan, which exactly match with the time period of SDG. We started 2016 to 20, our 7th 5-year plan. Now we are having our 8th 5-year plan, and 9th 5-year plan will take us to end of journey of 2030. And Bangladesh will not stop here, because in our total journey of development, SDG is a part only. We have our long-term plan 2041, where Bangladesh sees how to be a developed country. 2071, how we will reach the 100 years of our independence. And we have the Delta Plan 2100. The globe at present facing so many natural calamities, including the heat waves. Bangladesh also preparing along with our friends of CVF, 48 CVF countries. Now, challenge of COVID. Yes, it's a great challenge. LDC graduation Bangladesh were supposed to be graduate finally by 2024, but only for this corona, government decided that it may take further 2 years to graduate from LDC. Likewise, implementation of SDG is under challenge. Resource mobilization is also a great challenge because not only in Bangladesh, almost all the country, they had to remobilize their resources for combating the COVID. I strongly believe last year, during COVID also, Bangladesh progressed well, about 9%. This year, we expect with this COVID also, the resilient Bangladesh, which sees the future of the prosperous Bangladesh. You see, in 1970, Bangladesh lost 500,000 people with the calamity of cyclone Vola. The same magnitude cyclone Amphan last year could take only more than 100. Yes, you know, a single life is very valuable, very important. But this is our progress, that from 500,000 to 100. And Bangladesh now sees the opportunity to be a prosperous country. So from vulnerability to resilient, and from resilient to prosperous, and also achieving the SDG. Here, partnership of the private sector with the public sector, journalists, even my scouts, cultural arena, sports arena, were not. Let us put our hands together. Maybe for some developed country, SDG implementation and practicing SDG is a fashion. But for Bangladesh, this is life and death. We need to be a prosperous country. We need to work very hard. Let us work together again for the success and reaching towards SDG. Thank you very much for giving me time.
Thank you very much, sir. You have indeed actually kind of given a map where Bangladesh is and what is the vision ahead for implementation and achieving SDGs. So now we directly go to the question and answer session. It is an open session. I can see lots of participants. They have sent me the questions in the chat box, but I can see also many dignitaries have raised their hands since the beginning. They wanted to, I think, engage. So let's take this opportunity maybe for first 5 minutes, and later 5 minutes we will club some questions. I can see there are many people. I can see Dr. Mofizur Rahman here, who is MD of SME Foundation Bangladesh. If you, sir, want to unmute and if you want to quickly add something.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Dora. I look your very beautiful face and a smiling face. Thank you, Dr. Ratan also. Thank you, the dignitaries. Actually, I definitely go with the process that it was mentioned that partnership is the key tool for achieving this goal. That's undoubtedly. But my actually humble question to Madam Dora, that in the second slide, you in the shared values, you have kept the SDGs in the goal number 11, sustainable settlement and communities in the middle. My question is that why it is in the middle? Because I think the planet Earth is not only for the human being. This is for the wildlife. This is for the all kind of lives over the land and under the water, even inside the land. So my point is that it should be the climate action should be in the center, because the climate action actually hampering the lives and everything, including the human lives as well as the other lives, that is very pertinent for the sustainable development or the sustainable development of the planet also. So can you please explain why the settlement and communities in the middle? Thank you very much.
Well, thanks for the question. Where I stand, of course, climate change is important, but there are other elements that are similarly important, and I already mentioned biodiversity loss. But ultimately, when we are talking about sustainability, we cannot escape the fact that everything is centered on us. And that's the reason why I put SDG 11, where humans are overrepresented in the human settlements, in the cities. We know that more than 50, probably about 56% of the global population now is in the cities. So we cannot escape the fact how we think about the world. We think through our species potential, and we often undermine the importance of other species. So that was and the SDGs are anthropocentric agenda. Why we're doing this? We're doing to preserve our species, to give opportunities for economic growth, for future generations. So the beauty about SDGs is that they're all interlinked. So you can put anyone in the center and you can still build the picture around it. And I cannot but agree with you that we should be humble and admit that it's not just about us, and the planet and the environment, the ecology is more important. However, even without the human species, the planet is going to continue. It's more what we do for us and how we maintain the eco-services that this planet provides to us. So thank you.
I can see R.V. Shahi. He wants to also ask a question. If you want to unmute. And yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Are you able to hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Just a second. Thank you very much for this opportunity, because I got the information from my close friend, Mr. Azad, just half an hour back, earlier than the commencement, and I thought it is such a great subject. And I have been personally associated with some of the things that have happened in the energy sector in Bangladesh for the last almost 12 years. I think Dora set the tone, Sustainable Development Goal and Partnership. I entirely endorse, but I think she would agree that energy and sustainable development goal, out of so many sustainable development goal agenda items, I think energy is key, whether it is poverty alleviation or health or improvement of quality of life. And I recall in 2009, when the new government came in, there was power crisis in Bangladesh. And that is the time when Mr. Azad used to be Energy Secretary, and he came with a big team to India. And when we talk of energy, climate change, the last speaker mentioned very rightly that climate change should be at the core. And I agree. And for climate change, again, energy could be a problem, energy is a challenge, and energy is a solution. I think it is there when we thought that the resources, natural resources in this part of the world, particularly BBI and Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, Nepal region, energy is so placed, like hydro resource in Nepal, hydro resource in Bhutan, hydro resource in India, again the solar emergence, renewables, that this partnership can go a long way in mitigating the problem of not only energy availability, but also of climate change. And we did it in the last 12 years. So we made partnership between India and Bangladesh. And that to some extent today, from zero, we are almost 1200 megawatt of power transaction taking place between the two countries. And recently, about a year back, it has been agreed that it could be possible for Bangladesh to have power from Nepal, hydropower from Bhutan, and that would squarely address the issue of carbon, because Bangladesh otherwise had no other solution than to go in a big way with the coal-based thermal power station that we have now put a halt in new power stations. So I think this session has been extremely rewarding, but I think energy as the core issue and enhancing and deepening the understanding and cooperation between BBI and nations, apart from the studies, apart from some of the action points, but this will solidly answer the issue of many items that are there on the agenda of Sustainable Development Goal, and particularly localizing it to the sub-regions, this BBIN region, it will help a lot. Thank you very much.
Well, thanks a lot for your comment. I kind of stopped talking about energy in recent years because I think we have found the solutions. Where I am in Western Australia, there is so much adoption of rooftop solar that the government had to abandon the plans to build another coal power station. So the community took the initiative in their hands. So we have close to 2 gigawatts of energy that is being produced from the rooftop solars. And now we have battery storage that allows access to energy 24/7. So it is a very different perspective, whether you look from a developed country where energy has been available to everybody, or where you look at Bangladesh, where you still have problems in terms of energy provision. But what is important to me is the change in thinking around energy. So not every energy is the same. So that shift away, as you mentioned, looking at hydro options, a shift away from fossil fuels is really, really essential. And we see this transitioning everywhere. The International Energy Agency produced a report probably a couple of months ago, which showed the pathway away from fossil fuels. So if nobody is thinking fossil fuels anymore, so we have done the transition, at least in our thinking. And we are powerful people, we are clever, we are innovative, we'll find solutions as soon as we change the way we think about the problem. And that's really important, the example that you gave. Thank you.
May I add?
Can I select a question?
Yes, you will be responding to these questions. Actually, we can see, I think Ajad sir wants to say something. And last question, in virtual, we will take from Ali Nawaz Russell from GIU. He is also raising his hands. After that, I think you can respond to these questions which are in the chat box, and all our discussions can be flipped for 1 minute.
Thank you, Ratan.
I want to add with Dora, the issue of energy. You see, in Bangladesh, not only we are working for achieving the SDG, very recently, Bangladesh declared that 10 mega coal power project, Bangladesh government scrapped it. This is a very challenging, a very courageous decision for Bangladesh, because we took this initiative. But looking towards the global warming, as I mentioned in my deliberation also, the heat waves, the continuous cyclones and all other natural disasters. Even yesterday, we saw the landslide in India. Looking at all these, government decided to scrap all these 10 mega power plant. We need to work for the renewables. This is a very challenging part for Bangladesh, a small country. Very large quantity of land is required for the solar. We have no scope for hydro. We have no scope for wind. So only depending on the solar, Bangladesh could take this decision. The whole globe can take the similar decision. Thank you. If I get time, I will ask some other question in the chat box after addressing by Dora. Thank you.
Mohammad Russell, if you want to.
Oh, okay. First of all, I'd like to really thank you, CIMEC, and the idea for organizing such a beautiful event. And I'm really happy to see some of my senior sirs, especially the Ajad sirs. Long time we are not working together. Thank you, sir. I'm really enjoying your speeches. And of course, the Dora. And how can I forget Dora contribution on SDGs related issues, particularly with the Governance Innovation Unit. Thank you, Dora, for your excellent presentation as well. Anyway, yes, we are doing excellent particularly for Bangladesh in SDG related issues. Already others have mentioned all those things. But in my perception, in case of partnership, I'm really happy to see that CIMEC is coming forward from the private sector, talking about the partnership. So if I'm asking any government officials, any government department, what is SDG? Simply, they will tell us, okay, SDG 17 goal, number of indicators is this. If I'm asking ZED, they are doing tremendously excellent job for Bangladesh. SDG, in their definition, they have a lot of tools to measure the SDGs. They have identified the potential gaps, data gaps. They have identified the responsibilities, who are the responsible. They have M&E framework, a lot of things. And even if I'm asking those people who are doing research, in case of Bangladesh, say for example, CPD, they are doing excellent research on, they have a platform called Citizens platforms for SDG implementation. They're also doing great job in case of research. But in my perception, I think we need some kind of new things like what is sustainability is missing in a large way. Long way to go here as well. And for example, say, in SDG documentation, there are a lot of things about sustainable agriculture, sustainable tourism, sustainable communication, sustainable settlement issues. So where is the definition of those things in our policy documents? We need that kind of capacity building. If I'm asking any department, most of the department doing different projects, they're understanding, okay, we are doing SDGs. Yes, we are doing SDGs, but they're mainly doing some projects. If I'm asking if there is no SDG in the global agenda, then what we will do? We will do the same projects. So there is a lot of debates maybe, but we need some types of capacity building of understanding the sustainability. Why our policy before 2015 was, how was that? And now what we are doing. Ajad sir is clearly mentioned, we try to build up a district model we call NATO model, and we're trying to establish that kind of local model for the every role of society approach. And we have also identified another things, we call it 39+1 for the localization of SDGs. So in those cases, I think professor like Dora can contribute a lot, CASPIN and IDEA projects or the SISMIC. They can actually invite people for training about sustainability. I think this is largely missing in Bangladesh. I hardly seen any institution, either government or the private sector, if any person in the Bangladeshi citizen want to learn about SDG, where he will go. In government sector, yes, there is a lot of training opportunities there, but mostly those are how many goals, what are the targets, what is the M&E framework, what is the data gap analysis? Those are the theoretical tasks, but understanding the sustainability is, I think we need some capacity building training. And in this way, we can build up some kind of partnership. And I'm really happy to see that such kind of initiative is going on. And I will be looking forward for such a beautiful partnership. And once again, thank you very much. Thanks for inviting me, and thank you very much for giving me a chance. Thank you.
Before Dora replies to it, I think I want to also thank Mr. Ali Nawaz Russell that you have actually summarized lots of questions which have come so far in the chat box. If we can't sustain ourselves, then what is the sustainability we are talking about? And just, I know that lots of people, when they have written their questions, they are quite extensive. We can't read everything, but thanks for asking the questions. Mahir Abdullah, Mohammad Rabiul Alam from Bari, BPATC, Mohammad Moshir Rahman, Mohammad Fashiullah, Mohammad Abdul Rashid Sarkar. And then we can see people have asked about questions like, what are the lessons we have learned from MDG, how we can bring some of these experiences. They have talked about the economic depression due to this COVID pandemic. So Dora, if you want to respond to all this, in addition to what just Mohammad Russell has said.
Well, I wish I knew all the answers, guys. I'll just give you what is the definition of sustainability. It is a practically oriented basic research or fundamental research. So we don't know the answers. we need to work together to find the answers and at the same time implement what we have learned. And the other thing that is really important is that we need to rely on all types of knowledges. It's not only the answers that are coming from academia or from government. There is a lot of wisdom, there is a lot of traditional knowledge, and the community organization are becoming so more powerful. The other thing that I wanted to, one of the questions that was coming earlier in the chat is, what is the importance of women in the sustainability agenda or women in leadership? I know from what science has given us in terms of analysis, econometric models of participation of women in decision-making in all companies, the management boards and boards of all companies, there is a strong correlation that if there is more women, then the company is much more oriented towards sustainability and environmental performance. So the point that I'm making is that it's a global agenda, it's a common agenda where we need to bridge the gaps in the way we think, because we should accept that men and women think differently, but unless we work together, unless we have contribution from all sectors of society and across generations as well, we cannot handle such a complex agenda. SDGs until 2030. Sustainability is definitely going to stay after 2030. 2030 is not that far. The problems we are facing are much deeper than that. But what the SDGs are going to help us do is change the way we think, change the way we see the world, and that's going to help us achieve better planetary health.
I think it's a time now to call off the day. If our discussants don't want to add something, Ajat sir, if you want to add something, the final word, then we'll move it to our chair of the session, because he has been waiting and we have been discussing. Thanks to all, sir.
Yes, thank you very much. As I find so many questions in the chat box.
Yes.
So, Mr. Meher from Fakir Fashion, you mentioned about the RMG, pollution. You talked about the responsible production, and also requested for forming a forum, whether alone can do. You know the answer, alone cannot be, SDG cannot be achieved at least. So Mr. Shamrat telling about the how we can implement this SDG during this pandemic. Yes, pandemic is a great challenge. But in Bangladesh, what we tell? We tell that if one door is closed, we need to open 100 doors. Likewise, SDG also shows us how best we can combat. Combat in this sense that you see. Also, I find a comment from the micro credit authority. Yes, we need to look into this solution, microcredit. Much more emphasis on this, and the government is doing that. That where we need to put our resources now to combat the COVID and also to reach the SDG. So we need to find out this innovation, this innovative path. Also, I find Mr. Shamrat, he talked about the how to ensure the partnership. I believe you got answer from Russell about the partnership. Mr. Mohsin, what are the challenges of SDG? The main challenge of SDG is partnership. Then you can see about the resources. The resource gap is all over the world. Every country needs extra money. Who will be giving you extra money? No. You will not get extra money. You need to earn extra money for implementation of SDG. You need to find out the innovative solution for getting these resources. Mr. Rabiul told about the integration. Fasiullah told about the microcredit. Mizanul, a scout friend, he told about how we do involve the youth. Yes, especially youth are being involved globally and also in Bangladesh, youth, women, and all this. And Mahbub mentioned about the how do we involve the public sector, the capacity building of public sector. Just I will cite one example, as Russell is here, from the Prime Minister's office, the how to encourage the government officials, 60 hours training each of the officials each year. This is number one. Number two, a special program. This involves private sector and public sector, university teachers also, for the higher education, master's degree and PhD, and a good amount of money which can enable a person to have his or her master's and PhD from the highest university of the world. So with all this, I think, I believe we will be able to achieve SDG. And the participation from different sector, very encouraging. We will be arranging many more events on this. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. It's already going to be 7 in Bangladesh. And before I take a leave and pass it to our honorable chair, I want to convey as a moderator, I want to convey my warm thanks to all the speakers and the individuals who have participated in the discussion session. Particularly, I want to convey my gratitude to Mohammad Sharifur Rahman, who is the National Coordinator of SDGs Action Research Center, CIMIC Institute of Technology, and who has worked hard to make this event happen. Our administrative manager,
Mr. Ratan, before you conclude, at least
sir.
you please mention the person, those who raised their hand, please mention their name. You are not giving them time.
Yes, I am trying to, because this is a huge list, but I am trying to, I can see the hands been raised by Suraya, Manikujaman, Nasima. We are really sorry. Mahir Abdullah, your question has been responded. Salahuds, and many more actually.
Ratan, may I request to give them each 30 seconds.
Okay.
Without addressing, just they tell what they want.
Professor, doctor, okay, we can't see, but yeah, please unmute yourself and we can take maybe 2 minutes, and then as sir has said, as we have already stayed so long. Yes, sir.
It's a wonderful session, I feel extremely delighted to be here. And I'm, of course, thankful to Mr. Abul Kalam Azad, because it's because of him I'm here. And I could join anyway. I do congratulate all the moderator first, and all the discussants, and honorable the keynote paper and chair, all dignitaries here. I have just one thing to add. I do congratulate you all those who are involved, especially Mr. Abul Kalam Azad, whom I know for years, for a long time, that he did a lot and contributed much to attain the goals of SDG. And we have got one very wonderful place in the implementation of SDG in the whole globe. Now, I have just one thing to add. I want to continue, not me, the professionals from sociology. As a sociology student, I would like to request you, Dora is here, Ma'am Dora, I wish you to just have give us a skill, for capacity building, training, also for increasing.
We are losing your voice, I think, if I am the only one who is losing your voice.
Can have a chance to continue and go with you. Thank you very much. Thank you. I wish you all the best. All the best. Thank you.
Yeah. Anybody? Okay. We can see Ambassador Shahanur. Okay. Yes, sir. If you want to.
Good afternoon. My Ambassador Extraordinary, Plenipotentiary, Templar Nation for the South countries. I'm in the 8 countries of Asia. So we are UN country. We are not the member of the United Nations, but as a assigned ambassador for Bangladesh, I am ready to move Bangladesh and giving sustainable support to Bangladesh government and NGOs. But in this pandemic time, we are blocked because our government is not giving permission to move anywhere, basically Bangladesh. And as a researcher also, arsenic contamination, that, and also COVID-19 recipe. Next time we can try to talk about the COVID-19 recipe and which way we can help the Bangladesh population to sustain this pandemic situation. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. As we are talking about, thank you, sir. As we are talking about gender participation, lastly for 30 seconds, if Ms. Suraya and Ms. Nasima, if you want to add something.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Suraya. Just to convey my salam to Professor Dora, Professor Amjad. Very good to see you. Very nice to see you. Just one question. Everybody knows what Bangladesh is doing about what Mr. Abul Kalam Azad has said, the coordination in Bangladesh, what the achievement, today's achievement. But do you think, my simple question is, do you think due to this pandemic situation, whether we have to revisit the SDG tracking, what we have done? Because we really don't know how we are going to tackle this situation. About 2 years, our education sector is hampered. Our environment, we are still at our home. We don't know when we are really going to be normal life, although we say new normal, but we don't really know whether our original planning will be implemented at this pandemic situation and how. Thank you very much.
The last participant, Ms. Nasima.
Thank you very much. This is Nasima, Chairman, National Human Rights Commission. First of all, I would like to convey my salam to you all, especially Abul Kalam Azad sir, who actually sent the link to me, and it's an opportunity to join this valuable working session. In respect of human rights, actually, I would like to say that SDG is very much related with human rights. So we are very much eager to work with SDG, and we also work in this area. And you know that the 156 targets of 169 targets are related with human rights. So actually, how can we work together and how can we build partnership? I think in this area you can consider. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you to you. So now it is time to actually call the day off. And before I take a leave, I just want to take this opportunity to inform you all that, in this year end, we are organizing an international conference, which is on the role of media and communication in achieving sustainable development goals in South Asia. And we are already collaborating with many universities and research institutes across the borders. So you stay in touch. We will be able to maybe again meet in some another occasion. Before I move it to our honorable chair for the session, just I want to mention that the people who are behind the scene and helped us to do this event smoothly, Mohammad Jamaluddin Ahmed, Aminul Islam, Mistapita, and other team members from IDEA. Along with all these, I want to mention the founder chairman of CIMIC Institute of Technology, Engineer Sardar Mohammad Shaheen, who being a businessman always motivated us to contribute in research and innovation, particularly for SDG implementation in Bangladesh as a private player. So now I invite Professor Dr. Monirul Islam to deliver his concluding remarks and the way forward. Professor Dr. Monirul Islam is the president of CIMIC Institute of Technology. He is the chair of Department of Civil Engineering and Dean of College of Engineering and Technology, IUBAT, International University of Business, Agriculture and Technology, Dhaka. He earned his postdoc fellow at Japan and National University of Singapore, also his PhD and MSc from Japan, and also his BSc in Civil Engineering from Kuwait. Sir, the floor is yours, and I take a leave from all of you. Thank you very much. somebody helps her to unmute. Yes, yes.
Dr.
Yes.
Moni, we don't hear you. We don't hear you. Please unmute.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, dear ladies and gentlemen, good day. Because actually, you see, after these three very well-known discussions, it is very difficult for me to discuss the matter pleasantly. So I think I wanted to discuss many things, but I found that all these things are covered by the question and answer. So that as a seer, I have only just to say you thank you and goodbye. So before that, I would like to add some things as how can we go forward. At least we understand we need the partnership to achieve SDG. So now we have to looking forward for partnership and find out the path, how can we work together. So we are very close to Maghrib Fair, so I want to finish my speech here. I offer my heartiest thanks to Dr. Dora Marinova. He is our good friend. And then Professor Dr. Amjad and the Kaji M. Aminul Islam, Chairman of IDA, and this Muhammad Abul Kalam Azad, Special Envoy of CBF Presidency, and this Commissioner of Global Commission of Biodiversities. And before closing today's session, I would like to offer my heartiest thanks to our friend and the participants. And I would like to thank Professor Dr. Amjad again, because he has created the bondage between CIMIC Institute of Technology and the Curtin University, Australia. And now you see the special thanks to Dr. Ratan Kumar Roy, who has given his effort and time to make the program successful. Thank you very much to our other team members and participants. Now I would like to close this webinar with the ever so fitting words of former UN Secretary General Kofi Annan. More than ever before in human history, we share a common destiny. We can master it only if we face together. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. See you again.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you all. Let's leave from the live and then slowly we all can maybe disperse from here.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye, Dora.